Were they valuing him at the Cy Young? Why didn't he go? What do you know?
Well, there's a good reason that Miami held on to Sandy Alcantara. Obviously, we talked about him more than anybody, but he did have a 6 ERA, so it was difficult for teams to pony up for the top prospects that were asked for. But I can't really blame Miami for asking for those top prospects. There were 2 years to go with Sandy Alcantara. He is pitching well again. He's obviously had come off of Tommy John, had struggled early on. But, I mean, this is a guy who won the Cy Young, throwing 98 miles an hour. I do not blame them at all. With the Yankees, they asked for one of their top 2 prospects, Spencer Jones or George Lombard Jr. George Lombard Jr., who is from Miami, so that would have been nice for them. Yankees did not want to trade either of those guys. It did feel like Boston and the Cubs were the most active there. I don't think anyone came close. Same with Edward Cabrera, who's looked really fantastic lately, and he's got 3 years to go. So I'm not blaming Miami at all for holding on to him. Look, all these relievers got fairly good returns. These are starting pitchers, right? And starting pitchers should get more, particularly ones with control to go.
Okay, so they move forward with those arms, 6 back of a wild card in the National League. My nephew's a crazy Red Sox fan. He calls me every morning after they win, and this morning he said, Lala, imagine Joe Ryan in that rotation. And I'm sure they tried everything they could. Were they asking for the top 3 prospects? What were they looking for in return?
Oh, I'm sure they were asking for big prospects and probably multiple big prospects. We're talking about an all-star pitcher, one of the best fastballs in the game, really a dynamic guy. And we saw the Twins. They traded, almost 10 guys. I think they traded close to 10, right? They were the big dumper of the teams. But Joe Ryan is in a different category, right? 2 years to go, outstanding pitcher. The Red Sox did try. I think it might have come a little late. They might have been looking at Alcantara and some of the other pieces, figuring that Ryan was difficult to get. And
that was
they
the
did
pivot.
try late.
Work, yeah.
And Minnesota just felt like they needed more time to really think about this one as they were dealing multiple other guys to all other teams. So it was going to be a difficult one, I think, always. I think Boston understood that. They're doing well now, despite the criticism about them. But they did make an effort at the end. It wasn't close from my understanding. Another all-star pitcher, McKenzie Gore, was out there as well. Washington definitely did talk to teams. There were names exchanged in this case with multiple teams. The Padres, his old team, were the ones that were most aggressive there in trying to get him back. Remember, he went in the Juan Soto deal where they also gave up Wood and Abrams and 2 others, and they tried to get him back. Didn't quite work out.
Can you imagine that Padres deadline and add McKenzie Gore? If that had come to fruition, it would have been too much. How about Zac Gallen? He spoke the other day about looking over at Merrill Kelly's locker and having it be empty. It would just be a different feeling, I would imagine, in these past couple days in the Diamondbacks clubhouse. Why didn't he go too?
Yeah, I don't think that the offers were there for Zac Gallen, which surprises me. I know he has a 5.5 ERA, not having his typical year. He hasn't been an ace in the past, does have great stuff. I think he would have been a great pickup, but he's more expensive than Kelly, and he was not having the year that Kelly was having. So there were 5 or 6 teams on Kelly who eventually went to Texas, Yankees. Several other teams were in on Kelly, but there wasn't a lot of activity with Gallen. And Arizona figures they can give him the qualifying offer, I do believe, assuming he pitches well down the stretch, which should be around $22 million, and they can get a draft pick if he signs elsewhere or bring him back for the $22 million or so.
And there's always those names we hear pre-deadline that we just kind of fixate on, and Gallen was one of them, Dylan Cease another. All we heard was he's going to get moved, right, leading up to the deadline. And then 2 days ago, he goes out and gives up nothing over 5. And then you start to imagine that postseason rotation. What was the back and forth?
Well, Padres honcho A.J. Preller will talk about anyone and anything, and they certainly did discuss Cease with many.
This felt different, no? It felt different with Cease.
Yeah, it did seem like there was a decent chance. Now, the night before, when I was hearing they were going to get Miller, I checked in with somebody, and he did not think Cease was going to go. But A.J. Preller did continue to talk about Cease, particularly with Houston. That seemed to be the team that really gave it a run for Cease, but San Diego wanted some controllable starters back in that deal, and Houston eventually decided not to do it. I think the deal was dead once San Diego traded Kolek and Bergert, 2 more starting pitchers to get their catcher Fermin back, which made sense because they needed a catcher. Ultimately, I think they got the catcher they needed. They got the left fielder they needed. They lengthened the lineup, and they brought in a dynamic and outstanding relief pitcher. So San Diego did a lot of great stuff. One thing, A.J. Preller ultimately does not like giving up talent, but he definitely did consider it pretty heavily, particularly with Houston.